Hi, I'm Chris and I'm the founder of Foxley Consulting. Our mission is to build a platform where people can access knowledge and information about negotiation wherever they are. The topic of this video is to discuss how do we negotiate with governments when they're so powerful. Recently, Roche and Shionogi managed to secure FDA approval for the first treatment for flu in 20 years. A significant achievement. And now they're going to go around the world securing the same levels of approval, but also now for funding and access to patients to be able to make this product a success. Now this is where the challenges lie. This is becoming increasingly difficult as governments around the world become more commercially astute, better negotiation tacticians, and more effective at using competition to drive down prices. In general, companies who operate in the public sector often struggle to secure the kinds of deals that they would consider to be highly valuable. And the reason for this is because governments hold such a strong balance of power. They own the entire process. They decide who goes to what meetings, what the structure of the negotiation might be, how the negotiation might progress. They also define the timing and the details of consideration, what will be considered and when will it be considered. They also carry the responsibility to look after public money, and as a result of that they use competitive strategies to drive down price. They have price as a key focal point. They are able to initiate strategies that tap into people's competitive spirit and need to win. In fact, people often will bid on contracts to try and get the glory of victory rather than remembering the value of the deal that they've just secured, which is why you'll hear about companies who agree contracts that are often below the cost of doing business. The problem for many companies, especially those operating in the public sector, is how to shift this balance of power. And if you're a company who's a technology company or a medicines company where you have invested in developing patents and new technologies, then the concept of a tender is really challenging. The patent that you've created should give you the protection that you need. And that means it's hard to compare it to something else. Running a tender where you've got 2 or 3 products involved when each product is different is a real challenge. It causes frustration and it causes anxiety and tension because of the fact that these products are not interchangeable. It oversimplifies a complex set of issues. So how do they shift the balance of power in these circumstances? Well, to shift the power under these circumstances requires you to develop a long-term strategic focus, to think about how do I change the way that they are thinking about this product or this service or this market segment. You need to understand the decision makers, the influences of the decision makers, and put energy and effort into transforming how they think. So let's think about the situation surrounding this influenza review. And at some point this product is likely to be reviewed by the UK. Now, if I was working for the UK government and thinking about this, I already have some preconceived ideas. For example, I think to myself, there is already a flu vaccine programme that's being rolled out across the UK. I'm also aware that there are other treatments for influenza on the market already. I also think to myself that flu, well, that's fairly low risk for healthy people. And finally, I've got lots of other things that I need to worry about. When I pull this into a conclusion about reviewing a new medicine, it'd be very easy to think to myself, well, this new medicine is going to have to be low priced, similar price to vaccines and treatments that are already available. And it's likely that I'm going to reserve it for people who are very high risk or have failed on treatments that are already on the marketplace. And the reason? Well, I want to de-risk myself from exposing it to high spend. So any influencing plan has to recognize these issues that I'm thinking and then deal with them and shift my mindset. So when you're building a plan like this, there are a number of things you need to focus on. So if you think about the planning process for negotiation, the two areas you need to focus on are on number 2, assess, and number 4, share. When you're assessing, you need to think about the people that are involved, what they think about, what their needs are, what their demands are. You also need to think about who influences your decision makers. What do they do? How close to you are they? How influential are they? And think about the desires. What do people need? What are their demands? And then what are the organisational issues that sit around this? What pressures are they under? What mechanisms are they using? How do they want to be perceived and present themselves? Then when you move on to the share section of your plan, you then need to think about what frame do I want them to be thinking about? Where do I want this negotiation to be framed? What expectations am I going to set of them so that when I walk into the room, they know what I'm going to be saying? And therefore, what information do I need to give? What do I need to share with them in order to influence all of this thinking? When you're doing that, you need to make sure that you execute this well in advance of your meetings. And you need to do it with focus. Be committed to achieving this plan. You see, the problem that big companies have is that they're often victims of their own success. They have many products developing through their pipelines, and they get easily distracted and they leave their plans to the last minute. Small companies who have less to think about are able to execute these plans more effectively because they are more focused and more committed. So think about creating a structure that means your teams are focused on the plan well ahead of time and that you give yourself that resource to be successful. If I was representing Roche and Shionogi at the moment, well, this is what I would want to be thinking about. I want them to be thinking that this treatment is better than the treatments that are currently available. That it can really help people who are at high risk of complications from flu. And more than that, it can actually help my current workforce, the people who are making my country money, and therefore I should keep them in work where I need them. With all of that, I need to think about this product as an investment, not an expense. If they can achieve that, then I'm sure they'll be well on the way to securing the price and the value of the deal that they need. So when you're planning your negotiations, think about how you use the process to create the structure and the framework that you need your customer to think about. Take control. Be a better negotiator.